Have you ever thought about tiny little robots, nanobots coursing through your veins, repairing you from the inside out? I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But the field of nanotechnology is working to make that an actual reality. We're about to dive into this incredible world where engineering matter at the smallest possible scale could literally change everything we know about, well, everything. Medicine, how we build things, and maybe even what it means to be human.
You know, this whole wild idea really got its start with this one simple phrase: there's plenty of room at the bottom. That was the legendary physicist Richard Feynman, all the way back in 1959. He was basically pointing to a massive, unexplored frontier at the atomic and molecular level. A world we were just starting to see, and a world that really does hold the key to our future.
And to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, it's just insane. We can now build components so tiny that millions of them could fit comfortably inside a single red blood cell. Just think about that for a second. This isn't just about making things smaller. It's about building really complex machines in a space that is almost unimaginably tiny to unlock completely new abilities. And the promise here is it's staggering. I mean, what if we could have nanobots flowing through our bodies, hunting down cancer cells with perfect precision, or repairing damaged heart tissue? What if they could form a direct link between our brains and artificial intelligence, or even generate experiences so real you couldn't tell them apart from reality? And beyond us, this technology could turn waste into useful tools and maybe one day even help us reshape entire planets. This isn't just incremental change. This is changing the world from the bottom up.
So the big question is, how do you actually build machines smaller than a cell? It's a huge challenge. But here's the coolest part. We don't have to start completely from scratch. It turns out we are surrounded by the perfect instruction manual, a blueprint that's been perfected over billions of years of evolution. All we have to do is figure out how to read it.
And this is the fundamental idea that changes everything. Life itself is the original nanotechnology. Think about it. Every single cell in your body is a natural, self-assembling machine, and it's all following instructions encoded in DNA. Nature has already solved the hardest problems of how to build and power things at the nanoscale. The templates are literally working inside us as we speak. Okay, so if we're learning from nature, we've basically got three main paths we can take. One, we can adapt biology directly, reprogram cells to do what we want. Two, we could try to build our own artificial nanomachines from the ground up. Or three, and this is where the most exciting stuff is happening right now, we can create hybrids. We can combine the best of both worlds, mixing biological parts with man-made technology. So let's really dig into that hybrid approach. Because instead of just talking about some far-off future, we can look at a concrete example that's happening in labs right now. This is where the theory hits the real world, and it is absolutely fascinating. So let's meet circulatronics. That's the term coined by researcher Deblina Sarkar for her pioneering work over at MIT. She's creating what you could call the very first generation of biohybrid nanobots. Now, it's not the self-replicating swarm you see in the movies, not yet, but it's an absolutely critical first step, and it points directly to where this is all going. The genius of this system is how it merges biology and tech. Okay, so Sarkar's team takes these microscopic electronic circuits and attaches them to our own immune cells. These cells then become the perfect delivery vehicle. They travel through the body, and this is the key, they can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is the brain's natural super protective shield. Once they're in place, a beam of near-infrared light, which can pass right through your skull, activates a tiny photovoltaic circuit. It's basically a microscopic solar panel, and that circuit turns the light into a tiny electrical pulse that can stimulate a very specific targeted neuron. And that is the massive breakthrough here. For decades, if you wanted to stimulate neurons deep in the brain, it meant invasive surgery, literally putting electrodes in there. This new method, the circulatronics, gives us a way to get that same level of precision with just a beam of light. This isn't just a new tool, it's a completely revolutionary way to interface with the human brain. Now, if we take these principles, we can start to imagine what the next step looks like. We're not just talking about one hybrid device anymore, but millions of them, all working together. But going from a single unit to a coordinated swarm, well, that introduces a whole new set of gigantic engineering challenges. I mean, really think about it. How do you get power to millions of machines that have no room for batteries? And once you figure that out, How do you talk to them? How do you send commands and get information back from something so incredibly small deep inside a person's body? Well, our usual go-to, radio waves? Yeah, that's not going to work here. The antennas would just be way too big. But the solution, just like in Sark's system, is light. You can focus light with incredible precision. And here's the really clever part. A single beam of light can deliver both power and data. The same medium gives them both the energy to work and the instructions on what to do. Okay, so we can power them and control them. But how do they work together? Once again, the answer is to look at biology. You see, our bodies aren't just bags of cells. They are highly organized societies of cells. An organ works not because each cell is a super genius, but because trillions of them are constantly communicating, creating this kind of amazing collective intelligence. So this biological society becomes our blueprint. Instead of having one central controller trying to micromanage everything, you have millions of simple little units just following basic rules and talking to their neighbors. And from that simple, local cooperation, really complex and intelligent behavior emerges for the whole group. It's just like how cells work together to heal a cut. Now, when we start to combine all of these ideas, the biohybrid design, the light-based power, the swarm intelligence, the long-term implications become, well, they become profound. We're not just talking about better medicine anymore. We are talking about fundamentally changing how we build our world, and maybe even changing what we are. So if nanobots can learn to self-replicate, just like cells do, our whole idea of making things just gets thrown out the window. We wouldn't assemble products in factories anymore, we would cultivate them. A factory might start to look more like a greenhouse, where the products are literally grown, not built. And you can see how this shifts everything. Need a bridge? You could just release a specialized swarm of nanobots that organizes itself into the final structure. A skyscraper could assemble itself from the ground up, the same way a tree grows. Construction would literally become a process of controlled growth. And at this stage, the technology behaves so much like a living system that the difference becomes almost meaningless. You have to ask, are these self-replicating adaptive swarms of matter a machine, or are they a new form of synthetic life? The boundary we've had for all of human history between what is born and what is made, it just dissolves. And this brings us to a final, really provocative thought. If we master this technology, are we just creating better tools, or are we actively guiding the next phase of evolution itself? Maybe this tech isn't just the next step for engineering, but the next step for life, a successor to DNA. What do you think? We have only just scratched the surface today. All the ideas in this explainer were inspired by the chapter From Biology to Nanobot Swarms in the book Simulated Reality. If you want to dive way deeper into this, which I highly recommend, we've put a link to the book's availability down in the description. Thanks for watching.